Welcome to Winning with the Burns, a podcast for highly ambitious people who have a burning desire to learn what it takes to win at a high level.
Hey, welcome to our weekly podcast. Very excited about today's podcast. We got Mr. Jason Speigel with Ethos. If you don't know what Ethos is a direct-to-consumer insurance company where you can apply for life insurance yourself. And we'll get into more details about, our relationship with Jason now, because as you know, we're independent life insurance agents. But Jason, welcome to the show today, man.
Thank you both so much for having me.
Yeah. So just kind of share with everyone, your background. I know I think you're in year 22 right now in this industry. And it was cool hearing at lunch today about how you actually accidentally got into the insurance industry.
Well, like most people, right? There's in 22 years, it doesn't look like it. No, in 22 years, there's only been two people I've met that intended to get into life insurance, and we call them weirdos. No, these are that actually went to school for insurance. Most everyone gets into the business by accident. I'm no exception. I was paying my way through school as a short order cook, and that just doesn't hold up on a resume. So I was going through a recruiter and a couple job searches, and I found this opportunity to be, just way up here on the corporate ladder as the protective mailman. But it was like, well, mailman is going to look a lot better, on a resume than, cook. And like I said today, as you get in there, you wonder, why aren't more people talking about this? My own family had a perception of life insurance from what my grandfather did as a debit collector for Western Southern. That is a different model.
Briefcase, walking around with a pocket protector, collecting money.
The calendars, handing out calendars.
Perhaps some. We went from bar to bar, collecting checks, for premiums. And I don't know if most of those checks were spent on drinks, but it's probably something I should see a therapist about. Work through some of those. But that's one segment of the market. Where I got in at Protective was working with financial advisors, in broker dealers and wirehouses, and people would come in, with a different cut to their suit.
Yeah.
And like I said, I would lean over and bump someone like, what's this guy make? What does that gal make? What's going on here? Maybe this isn't a resume builder. Maybe this is something I should look to pursue longer term. And time kind of got away from me. I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up, but fast forward 22 years, and it's been a pretty darn good ride, that I went from, mailman to internal wholesaler, managing a sales team, competitive intelligence, external sales, national accounts, and, went from Protective, spent 8 years at AIG. And then that kind of brings us to, the last year plus, my time at Ethos.
So tell everybody what Ethos is. I remember when you guys first came on board with us, it was, I remember seeing it across the ads on social media, Ethos. Kind of share with everybody, what exactly is Ethos?
If you haven't seen Ethos in your social media feed, you probably will now. Siri and Alexa are listening, and we are going to be, and we're in there.
Yeah.
So Ethos is, if anyone here has gone through life insurance process, the most cumbersome, painful process. The only thing less cumbersome than going through traditional underwriting life insurance might be refinancing your mortgage, or something along those lines. It's not fun.
Yeah.
People don't look forward to it. You get to have a stranger come out to your house, collect fluids. We don't need to get into that for the podcast listeners today, what that means, but it's not good. It's not comfortable. And maybe you hear with an offer in a week, 4 weeks, 8 weeks. You don't know. Everybody's experience is going to be very different in that traditional underwriting process. And it's just that lack of predictability that can drive people crazy. Where Ethos comes in, we were founded in 2017. Our two founders are just brilliant. This is actually their second company. They sold their first, and I think in maybe late 20s, they said, we still need to work. No, so they put this ethos together of, is there a way to get life insurance without working with an agent?
Because when there was a problem, didn't one of the partners apply for insurance and it took forever for it to get approved?
He had a less than desirable experience with a whole life policy that he was sold. That is, and it was just kind of, scarring, I guess, for some people, which is crazy since we're here, in an agent distribution.
Yeah.
But that's the genesis of the company of how can a consumer that may not be comfortable with someone at the kitchen table knocking on their door, or maybe even the flip side. When was the last time you guys had someone knock on your door or get a mailer talking to you about life insurance?
Yeah.
It doesn't happen. So you have to have an outlet where consumers can go directly. That's not always the best way. It's a great way. But when working with an insurance professional like yourselves, others in your organization, a little more time can be taken, appropriate needs analysis. End result is the same. We take this tool that was consumer direct at inception and put it in your hands. And I think it's a scary combination of experience, sales acumen, and technology. Because what it does, everything I mentioned before, that fluid collection, the lack of predictability in the time frame, that's gone. You can be underwritten for a life insurance policy and approved in 10 minutes. And that's with our process. So it goes through an algorithm.
Or less, because guys, I didn't believe it. I've been in this business 20 years. And again, when you guys first came to us, I was like, this is BS. There's no way that guys can approve a policy over X amount. Typically in our world, anything over $500,000 at a certain age requires a physical, like you said, blood work, swab, pee in a cup. But with this, certain ages qualify all the way up to $2 million
Yes.
without a physical. And he said 10 minutes. I did one on myself, and in less than 5 minutes, I was approved at a rate that was cheaper. And we have 16, 17 companies approved cheaper than any other company that I could do on a fully underwritten plan.
What do you mean by fully underwritten?
Fully underwritten, like Jason said, you have to, get medical records. You have to do blood sample, urine sample, family history, whole 9 yards. With this, I didn't have to put in my driver's license number. I just had to put in that I did have a driver's license in the state of Georgia. I only had to put in the last four of my social security number.
Let's be honest, it's a little scary what technology can do now, because we already know that. Through the Georgia MVR or BMV, whatever you call it down here, name, last 6 year or 4 of your social, we know your driver's license number. We know if you have any moving violations or anything worse than that. So through that 10-minute process, it's not just filling out the application and the questions that we pull from. We're pulling your medical data, prior labs that you had done, your financial background. All of that goes into our modeling and underwriting algorithm that comes out with this offer. And I did the same thing. I worked for a very fine company in AIG, great, amazing company. So I wasn't about to leave, even as excited as I was at the proposition.
Yeah.
I was not going to leave AIG without kicking the tires myself. So how do I go through here incognito, not let them know? So I just went to the consumer direct side, applied for coverage. And, it's a little bit different experience there because I didn't have an agent like yourself, working with. But 4 hours later, an agent from the Ethos sales desk called me and said, Jason, you're approved for the entire $2 million of coverage. Now I was ecstatic. At that time, AIG did not have accelerated underwriting, so it was 3, 4, 5 weeks on average, depending on the scenario.
If you're lucky, yeah.
If you're lucky,
Yeah.
So 4 hours, I was blown away. So I went to my interview, it was the last interview, to take the job, and I'm like, all right, you guys may have something.
Yeah.
I was approved in 4 hours, and here I am elated, and I'm looking at our chief revenue officer that I'm interviewing with, and she was defeated and just said, Jason, I'm sorry it took that long. There must have been an API lag or something. It should have been no more than an hour or two. I'm like, well, first of all, don't ever let that happen again. Secondly, I think we can work with 1 to 4 hours. That's, versus the old way of doing things. So it was, everybody has to go through the process themselves, like yourself, like I did, your agents, just so they know what they're going to ask a consumer to go through. But also you may really be surprised at the rate that you get, like you did, at how inexpensive our product set is. But it's not just that single product, it's 7 products, that allow us that if you have bad health, bad financial history, may not be the best way to put it, but we're almost, shopping the consumer for you that, okay, it's not a fit here, let's try this product. Not a fit here, okay, we're going to keep going. And we've got 4 products, for, short-term coverage. And then for older individuals or those with higher impairments or bigger health issues, we've got 3 permanent whole life plans. So end of the day, over 95% of people will get approved for something at Ethos. And whether that's what they ultimately take or they need more coverage, it at least gives you that opportunity to go back with some positive news that you were approved for this amount. I know maybe you wanted this, we're going to find that elsewhere. Or you were approved for more than you asked for. But it's less than what you thought you were going to spend.
Yeah.
This may be the insurance policy you never knew you always wanted. That it's just exactly what you needed at the right price. So, but the good part is where back to that traditional way of underwriting, it's not predictable. But your customers, your agents, in 10 minutes or less, and that's historically been the hardest part of the life process. Getting your customer, getting him on the phone, coordinating a mobile examiner, coming out. And have you guys had a mobile examiner come out?
I've done it one time. Yeah.
It's not, it's for the most part, it goes okay. But usually you have your own horror story. And, they were not very polite with my wife, and it took several jabs to find, a vein. And I thought they were kind of visible, so it's, it's a frustrating process. And anything that goes wrong in that chain of events is tied to you, their insurance professional, even if it was completely outside of your realm of control or influence. But you set them up, Jonathan. You set them up, Nick. You can't, and I'm not picking on mobile examiners. They do a tremendous job, but there so many additional links in the chain that are out of your control that can now be replaced by a 10-minute online process that either the client completes or you can complete on their behalf. So it gives you several different ways to attack this.
Yeah, our world we grew up in was simplified issue, final expense. And, you write it, within the week it's approved. Well, as time progressed, it was instant decision. And a lot of the stuff we write now is, within 48 hours. I mean, I wrote one that they wanted a little bit more coverage. He was 72 years old and, having to deal with the paramed company. I remember calling like, why hadn't y'all came to his house? Well, the lady that was supposed to go to his house, she hadn't been to work in a week. It's like, that's the kind of stuff you have to deal with. But with Ethos, talk about the year that they started and what they did for a certain amount of time frame before they got into dealing with guys like me and JB,
Sure.
Because it was direct to consumer.
Sure. So we've got, started as a consumer direct option.
Okay.
So it's almost like, lack of a better way to put it, a digital agency, that
Well, you cut out the agent.
Yeah, exactly right. And they thought at inception that was the way to go. What you don't know until they put X number of years and time and money under their belt and experience that there's about 5 or 6% of the marketplace that you can tap into, through direct consumer marketing. And any expenditure beyond that just starts to be it's diminished returns that you can just spend an exponential amount more, and you're only going to penetrate that much deeper. Whether you're doing social media ads, television ads, podcasts, that's where you see all of these folks operating. So they quickly realized that this is limited. This is where we thought it needed to be, but a lot of times insurance is still sold. It's not bought.
Not bought, yeah.
Outside of us, because we know that's the right thing to do. I mean, you go to any one of your friends and family, like, were you excited? When you went through and you got that life insurance policy. No one's excited. So it's, but you need someone, that, knows better than they do to hold their hand and walk them through that process.
Yeah.
So then we opened up an agent direct side, and we started recruiting, bringing agents in. And that was very successful, worked out very well. We had, but we had mostly, and this is not my area, so if they watch this and correct me later, then well, it was good working with you guys. Mostly non-traditional agents that would come through there, your property and casualty, final expense, med sup, health, and they're only going to sell so many because that's not their core competency. That's not what they do on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Now we have some killers. That are property and casualty agents that place 40 to 80 policies a year. That's more than some life agents, but that's not working necessarily on their own direct with us. Some of them do, but where we saw the better opportunity, and that's just the evolution of an agency, and we try and continue to shorten that learning time frame, it just made the most sense of, a group like yours, with Equus Financial, to have this built-in, agent force that's experienced. There's very little learning curve. It expanded our agent growth, and distribution, exponentially, and it just makes sense. You guys hit the ground running right away. And I have to give one example and a shout out. This young agent, for any Equus folks watching this, Tristan Hawkins, young guy, 21, maybe 22 now, may not have been that experienced of an agent, but in his first 3 weeks as part of the test pilot, through Robert Balgage's crew, this 21, 22-year-old young man placed 17 policies. And that was off of, I'll just ask you, how many applications do you think it took him to get to 17?
22.
It was 18.
18.
Now, I'm not going to let the facts get in the way of a good story. I think it was 18. But it was only one or two more than the actual place policy.
Yeah.
So one thing that's been really, really interesting with the Equus producers is the placement rate. So when someone goes through that 10-minute process, we all know that was traditionally the hardest part that normally took 4, 5, 6 weeks, now compressed to 10 minutes. So the hard part's done. And when a consumer realizes that, maybe they shop a couple other options. But the placement rate we've seen through Equus is, I'll put you on the spot again. It's your fault for giving me a big cup of coffee. I'm just wound up. What do you think the placement rate through Equus is on submitted business?
It's probably mid-70s, a little bit higher.
For all applications that have been submitted through Equus, since the test pilot in October through now, just under 90%.
Wow.
Now, and that's even a false number. And why I say that is that's just getting the application submitted. They could have been declined. So there's a small portion of those that we couldn't have been placed anyway.
Yeah.
But almost 90% placement rate. So you've got them right to the finish line. We make a couple calls and emails just to try and help give that client that needed nudge. And almost 90% of the submits, once they're fully submitted and go through the underwriting algorithm, end up getting placed.
Well, back to the 21-year-old, when we've trained hundreds and thousands of agents over the years in this business, and you don't know what you don't know. And I didn't know what lisinopril, amlodipine, what Coreg was used for, and so we'd have to call, our manager and be like, hey, what is this? This was before we could look it up on a phone. Right. I remember having one agent, he'd call, hey, she takes ibuprofen. Is that okay? I'm serious. This guy's still a good producer, but they don't know underwriting. With Ethos, they don't have to know underwriting. They just have to get the person to click on it to apply themselves, or they can do it themselves and ask the questions. You're not putting in a lot of medications with this because the AI is already doing all the underwriting for you.
And it's a great way for new agents to ease into this. Now, Tristan may be an exceptional, agent and, not, like a normal 21 or 22-year-old. That doesn't help my story. So I just want to say he's like, no, but all of those traditional pain points for new agents or non-traditional agents are addressed here because an application can be client completed. You don't have to worry about, I forgot to ask what medications they take. I forgot to go through the medicine cabinet. I forgot to ask about this, all those icky Part B questions. That can make you a little uncomfortable. That's gone. The other part that's gone is the need to run a quote, especially for a new agent, even experienced agents. How good of a field underwriter are you? And make people's skin crawl a little bit. Like, I think I'm pretty good. But that's gone. Because what I try and encourage people to do is when you send out a quote, that opens up an opportunity to overpromise and underdeliver, potentially disappoint. And it is very difficult. Traditional underwriting, it's difficult to quote preferred and then 30 days later have to place a standard. That's tough.
Yeah.
Now you compress that into 10 minutes and it's even infinitely harder, especially if it's over one or two products that are more expensive. So I really try and encourage agents, regardless of experience or what their core focus is, just have them go through the 10-minute process. You're going to find out exactly what their premium is, and then you can have a more meaningful conversation around that. Now there's no guessing game or, is that an oxygen tank? Or any of those things that you would have to normally go through. That's gone. Now it's just a matter of almost leading a horse to water. Can they complete this 10-minute app? Hard part's done. Now we know it's $47.32 a month.
And to that point, Jason, if it is $47.32, a lot of times they'll get excited. Well, I was approved. Mm-hmm. You take your finger and you raise the arrow up a little bit more, and for $55 they get more.
Right.
They can choose what amount they want based on what their budget is.
And I forget the exact LIMRA stats on this. I think 67% of stats are made up on the spot anyway. So I'm going to go with it.
Yeah.
I believe most consumers think that insurance is 3 or 4 times more expensive
than it really
is.
Mm-hmm.
So the only disappointment there is the quote that you provided. So why not? Even if it comes back twice what you would have quoted, it's still less than what they anticipated that to be, because an average consumer doesn't know that this health impairment or this family history or this driving issue adversely affects my product and rating availability. All they're going to see is what you quoted or what we approve them at. And that's a very different story and conversation to have, with that client.
Yeah. We're in a world, right now to where, people need to make more money. I mean, if you go to the grocery store, every time I go to the grocery store, I'm number one thankful that when I, pay for it, everything's good, right? But number two, it's scary because I'm like, how does the average family make it? This is a great opportunity for somebody that wants to make a little extra money, wants to make an extra $500 a month. What is the average premium right now with Ethos?
Thanks to Equus, and other producers like what Equus brings to the table, we're seeing that go up. So it ranges, on average across everything, it's about $1,000. I think we're seeing that skew to $1,100 to $1,200. Yeah. But that just depends. I mean, the younger your clients are, or the younger your agents are, the younger their clients will be. You're going to see the premium go down a little bit. But on average, it's going to be $1,000 plus, on that policy.
Yeah, and you guys don't advance traditionally in the insurance industry. They advance 75%. They give you 9 months up front. You guys give the full first year up front, right?
We do. Now this is on YouTube. I that's not available for everyone. But for Equus,
okay.
Because we've got such a strong relationship, and proof of sales and ability to produce there, that it is at 100%.
So if I'm a school teacher, Jonathan Burns taught me to get my insurance license, which is easy, by the way. You can just go online and do it at your own pace. It's $39 to do. Pass the state exam. You can actually take the state exam from your home now. I remember when I went to get my insurance license, I had to go a 2-day weekend out of town, 30 miles down the road, and sit through a guy that was like the dry eye commercial guy. I mean, it was awful. It was boring, but now we have it to where you can go at your own pace online, get your license, and you don't have to know anything about insurance. You can be across the lunch table as a school teacher and be like, hey, you got enough life insurance?
Yeah.
Here's a link. See what you get approved for, and make an extra $600, $700, $800, by just simply sending out a link to somebody.
Well, first, I'm really upset that you can get your life license online here. I'm showing I'm 45 because in Ohio, they had not decoupled the life and health. So I had a 40 hours of classroom time that I had to go through. So
you can take it from your house as long as you have
it's a closed book
yes,
test.
That's right.
Yes.
So what they make you do is they make you, somebody will call you and they'll tell you to take your camera on your phone and record all the way around you. And then you can literally take your test from your house now.
Yes. I had that same, Ferris Bueller teacher, dry eyes professor, gave me the wall for 40 hours. And that was
awful.
Like crawling through broken glass, to get that life and health. But to your point, you don't have to be a full-time life agent. Maybe this is, it all starts off, we were talking about this before the podcast, whether it's one more call, one more at a time.
Yeah.
It can just start like that. Maybe I don't want to be a life agent, but what would it take to cover my auto loan?
Yeah.
It's $500 a month. Well,
it's one policy
a month.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know somebody that needs life insurance. You talk to 10 people and you ask them if they need life insurance, 2 of them are going to tell you they do.
But to their point, though, they're going to say they need it, but it comes down to a time standpoint.
Yeah.
I don't have time to sit down and talk to you.
Right.
I don't have time to show up for the paramed.
Yeah.
I don't have time. With this, to your point, 10, 15
You're
minutes,
not booking.
they know.
You're not booking an appointment. You're not trying to go in their homes, because that's how we used to do. We used to knock on their door, have a lead card in our hand, and walk in the homes. And that was a very lucrative way to do business. Now we call them, book an appointment. 30% of 30% of them no show you. And so your career is based on the 70% that you sit with. With this, it's going along with the times. My wife, we go to the grocery store every so often, but she has Instacart, and we order groceries online. Amazon, we order way too much from Amazon, right? There's an Amazon package every other day, but you can do it all from your phones. And it's just going with the times evolving of where the world is. There's people that don't want to deal with an agent. They don't want to deal with a sales guy, right? I still sell. I love what I do. There's people that don't want to deal with that. They can go at their own pace and find out what they're approved for in 10 minutes.
They can. A couple things on that. I liken it to the Uber Eats or Grubhub of life insurance. Over the pandemic, the only thing that made me feel better about the traditional process was when I refinanced my mortgage. That was crawling through broken glass. But that's a pretty darn low bar to compare things to. So coming here, same thing. We order way too much off of Amazon. It's embarrassing that the drivers know my wife's name, my dog's names, my kids' names. But why shouldn't everything you buy have that same experience, or purchase option? And that's what we bring to the table here, that you can, while you're watching TV at night, doing your Netflix routine or whatever it might be, you can take 10 minutes and fill out an application. And to your point on the part-time, or once, are your wives invited to like Longaberger basket parties, or stuff that we don't need? And that's not picking on my wife.
Tupperware parties, yeah.
Tupperware, but if that person also had their life license, I would be less upset about a life insurance policy being brought home than more baskets or Tupperware.
Yeah.
Might just be me,
Yeah.
because of what we do. But it's that's an opportunity for that person to diversify their offerings at that event, or all the way up to the more experienced folks like yourselves. But at the end of the day, it's about making that acquisition of life insurance easier. And that is especially true. You've got younger folks that really don't want to meet with someone at the kitchen table, or we were kind of joking earlier, kind of being in the phone.
Yeah.
I just don't want to talk to someone like that. This is perfect for the younger agents that have friends like that, that want that buying experience, but they don't know that that's even an option. So this is a way for them to get life insurance or other financial products in a manner that's not dissimilar from all of their other purchase habits. So that's what's been most exciting over the last year for me, is finding different ways to present and talk about this. This would be the first podcast for me, so that's a first, but it's getting that message out is number one. But all we can do, that really puts the ball in your court. So for your agents, and you already went out there, you had the experience, and it was so daggone good and inexpensive, you had to snap up one for yourself.
Yeah.
But we just want to accelerate agents going out there and kicking the tires themselves to see what that process is like. Can I afford coverage this way? Then most likely my network of friends and family that are of similar health, similar financial status, they can also afford this. And I feel a lot better about standing on the gas, and getting out there if this was something that my friends and family responded positively to.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's right. So let me ask you this real quick as we're closing up.
Mm-hmm.
What would you recommend somebody X amount of their salary per year that they need to have in life insurance over the years, over your experience, what you've seen, what you would recommend somebody?
Up to age 40, it's 15 to 20 times your income. You can, you guys know this. Like, you don't tell me we're about to wrap this up when I'm going to sharpen my pencil. We're going to get to work. No, how deep do you want to go into it? And that needs analysis. You've got some folks that say 8 to 10 times is appropriate, and that might be, but that doesn't account for 25-year-old starting their career, or a 55 to 60-year-old that's starting to wind things down, and mortgages and auto loans and kids' college to I'm good. So it's there are so many online tools, and shame on me, I should know Equus probably has an amazing needs analysis tool, or of one. But it's going to range differently. So it's not a percentage of the income; it is multiples of the income depending on your age and your specific financial situation.
It's like Dave Ramsey recommends minimum have enough insurance to pay off all debts, all right, and then at least 10 times your salary. I mean, there's people listening on podcasts right now that all they have is insurance through work.
That's right.
And they think that's enough. That's scary. Not only is it scary that it's not enough, but number two, what if you have to leave that job because you get sick?
Yeah.
Like have a heart attack, have a stroke, something happens where you can't work anymore. You're screwed because you lose your insurance at work and you can't, it's tough to get insured, with a really good policy at, 50 years old by just having a heart attack, by just having a stroke. So, we're way underinsured here in America, and it's a responsibility to us as agents to make sure that families are taken care of. I mean, let alone burial cost. We're talking, I've got 5 kids, 4 of them are still at home. If something happened to me, I've made sure that my wife is debt free and she's taken care of, that she won't have to worry about finances to raise the kids, because kids are freaking expensive.
Well, the really sad part about that, about America being underinsured is, if you look at the stats, the policy ownership in America and amount of coverage has consistently gone down, since the 60s or 70s, which was, kind of in line with where you see some of the career agents, maybe not, being out there as much. I'd have to double check the timing, but end result is you've seen ownership just decrease, over time. That's been consistent. The average consumer sees that and they're going to say, yeah, it's because insurance is so daggone expensive. And it's less expensive now than it ever has been.
But why? Why is it? Because it is. Mm-hmm. It's insurance is cheaper today than it was 10, 15 years ago because of companies like Ethos, because of the technology. People are living longer. People are living longer with medications. I remember, when we first started, no one did a script check. It was always an MIB check when you wrote an application. Most companies didn't even do an MIB check. And for those of you, I'm talking Greek to a lot of people on the call that are listening in. But what MIB is, if Jason Speigel applies for a life insurance policy, they run his MIB, which is his credit report, but for his health. Has nothing to do with his credit report. They run a MIB, which is Medical Information Bureau, and it's where insurance companies communicate. So if you applied for another company and got denied, that will pop up. If you applied for a company and said that you were a tobacco user, that pops up. I remember when they first introduced script check in like the mid 2000s to what we do. And we were like, oh my God, this is it. We're done. They're going to be looking up every medication. But what it did was it made it better. Mm-hmm. It made it to where the companies could protect themselves by not insuring somebody that just got diagnosed with AirCell, dementia, a year ago. It protects the company, which allows the company to offer a cheaper product to the consumer.
And you're exactly right, because before that, you had to have that cushion in there, that allowed for, in this specific class, this specific product, the healthiest of the healthy to the not so much. You almost had to hedge your bets, but the more you can fine tune, and make sure with a high degree of certainty that someone's ending up in the appropriate risk class, then looking at the mortality tables, and seeing that, we are living longer, so we can, dial in this risk, what we need to reserve, what we need to check, end result being, besides all that, boring insurance jargon, is it's never been more affordable.
Yeah.
But more important to anyone listening that's not an agent, is it's not going to get more affordable, because that price goes up every single year. And that's if you stay the same health.
That's right.
So you run the risk of your health deteriorating. We unfortunately don't have a magic 8 ball, to know what's around the corner.
Yep.
And that, it's scary, but that's just life. So the sooner you can lock in that insurability while you're younger, while you're healthier,
yeah.
And while insurance rates are as low as they are, I mean, get off the couch right now. Go to Ethos. through one of their links.
Go to our link that will be posted
That's right.
online, and we've done a poor job about, really not promoting it out on social media like we should have. Again, it's really that simple. I mean, it's a click of a button to find out whether or not you're approved.
I'll leave you with this story, because it goes back to that group coverage. So it's kind of like the story of, a mechanic whose car doesn't work, because he's too busy working on other people's car. So for my first job with a carrier, I may have only had group coverage. After so many years, and I knew better.
Yeah.
But then the time was winding down. I'm like, uh-oh, I'm switching jobs. I'm not going to have any life insurance.
Yes.
So, I don't know if when you talk shop at home, I certainly don't mean to pick on my wife on this call, but it was just one of those, when I start talking insurance, and I don't blame her, glass over,
Yeah.
just gone. Like, this is the most boring thing you've ever talked about, and that's saying something. But so why I say that is for 13 years she heard me talk about insurance and the importance and planning, even though I had done a poor job doing so for ourselves. So when I went through the antiquated process, got the jab,
Yeah.
had the examiner come out, and I said, Miriam, here's a policy for X million. If anything happens, it's in the safety deposit box. Don't tell anyone, about this. But it was the most amazing thing, because for 13 years she had just glossed over and been bored to tears, and this time she was actually overwhelmed and with tears, cried when I told her, because it was just, and I'm like, what is going on here? You normally just, you give me that when we talk about, but for someone that had been around for 13 years on my side, she recognized the importance that I'd put thought into planning in case something happens to me. She got a policy, as well. But, the reason I share that is even someone that had been doing it, was a poor planner, so this is not, a slight on anyone outside of the industry, that hasn't, but for someone that had heard about insurance and the importance of protecting families, and hearing me just drone on and on and on for 13 years, to be moved enough to cry because she was, just felt so good about that protection being in place. You should do the same for yourself if you're out there listening. Because if, I can share that I was a poor planner, I did a bad job, I was the mechanic whose car didn't run, but I fixed it. The sooner you fix it, the less it's going to cost you, and the better your family will be, because there is nothing worse than the thought of your family having to change their standard of living because you didn't spend a couple dollars a month
Yes.
to protect that.
That's so true. So true. Great opportunity to help people, give people a true peace of mind, but it's also a great opportunity to help yourself and make some part-time money, without having to put in long hours or not having to get in the car and travel. We have the greatest part-time opportunity in the country to make an extra $1,500 a month.
When that's the start, it's that part-time, and then maybe you just stick with part-time. You know what?
Yeah.
That's awesome. You're helping one family at a time, but you go to one of these big events, you go to one of these meetings, and you see, if you're, financially motivated, and it's still helping families, but to your point, help yourself. So I can protect more families, and I can make, what did she make this year?
Yeah.
What did they just say? There's some crazy, revenues out there derived from helping families. And this isn't like a shady, thing. It's one policy at a time, one family at a time, maybe a couple policies here, but every additional family you help, it can be a lucrative career,
Yes.
for you to move. And, it's a heck of a way to spend the day, talking to people and protecting their loved ones.
It's been good to us. I'm in year 20 right now. You got me by 2 years, by the way. I'm in year 20. But the business, we're more excited about the business now than we've ever been because of the opportunities. You don't have to have, you don't have to be a one-trick pony and do it this way. When we first started hiring people, it was just like, all right, it's really part-time. You're only working 3 days a week, but it's full-time. You got to quit your job. Make sure you pack your bags 2 nights a week because the leads are an hour to 4 hours away, right? And it was fun. We loved it. Don't get me wrong, not knocking that. It was awesome. If I had to go back and do it tomorrow, I would. But now we have an opportunity to do it virtually. now we have an opportunity to do it with Ethos. I mean, we have so many different ways for you to help people, number one, and then to help your family as well.
We talked about this right before we came in. You know, you get some folks that are in the camp of, I'm only going to sell insurance at a table like this. We're going knee to knee.
Yeah.
I'm going to hold your hand. We're going to get through this. And then you have another distinct group that, well, that's a waste of gas driving to their house. You know, why not mass communicate and market digitally and virtually? That's what the last 3 years has provided us the opportunity to do and have consumers more receptive to it. And I think they're both right. You know, why not, allow Ethos, to essentially clone yourself and your efforts to work digitally, virtually, while you're still going, to meet that client in person. One is not better than the other, but if you can do both, why not? It just enhances the number of families that you help and also the revenue that you make from helping those families.
You said something that was just so profound. They're both right. It's whatever you believe. I had a guy tell me this a while back. We were talking about this new coach coming in, and I didn't like this new coach. I mean, it was a team that I support, didn't like this new coach coming in. I was like, man, this guy's not going to make it. And one of my mentors told me, he said, not necessarily true. And I said, well, he does this, he does. He said, look, all that matters is those kids that he's coaching, if they believe that what he's saying is true. If they believe in it, it will work, and it's what you choose to believe. So I encourage anybody is whatever you're doing right now, if you truly believe in it, keep doing it.
Yes.
Keep doing it, and it will work, right? But it's just all, at the end of the day, it really is all about what you believe.
Definitely.
It's been fun, man. I could go on. I mean, I don't know how long we've been on, but Jason, we really appreciate you
Load up
taking the
some more
time
tape.
today.
Or is this digital? I don't know. Let's go. No.
But this has really been good. You're going to be in Dallas, Texas for the conference.
I am.
Okay.
In Dallas, Texas. You up on the main stage. We've got a breakout session as well.
Yeah.
So definitely want folks to not throw fruit and vegetables at me while I'm on the main stage.
So you can get to meet Tim Tebow?
May corner him.
Okay.
May make it awkward.
We're big Georgia fans, but that's the only dude that wore that Florida Gators uniform that I could root for. He's just a class act.
Class act and just an absolute unit of a person. I mean,
Yeah.
He is.
but everything he says too. He's very humble, and I think that gets back to what we do. Staying humble. You have to appreciate someone that's been in the limelight like that. And still kind of stays true to his roots.
Yeah.
And humble. So I don't know if I'll be able to meet him, but I'll be on the stage. Anyone watching this that will be there, certainly encourage you and would love to have you join our breakout session just to hear more. We've got 10 minutes from the main stage, so it's going to be a greatest hits, fast, and in and out. But in 50 minutes, it'll be a smaller group, more opportunity for Q&A or to hear from your own, that have started with Ethos. So please come and spend time with us.
Awesome. Thank you, man.
Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.